Thanks for joining us for another live recording of the Managing Partners podcast. My name is Kevin Daisy, and I'm your host. Also the founder of Array Digital. Array Digital is a digital marketing agency that works with law firms. We help fill case pipelines with the use of digital marketing. Today, I have a special guest coming in from the Northern Virginia area, so not too far away from me. Tom Spiggle, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you, sir. And we were chatting a little bit about backstage, kind of getting to know each other and had some cool conversations. I'm excited to hear Tom's story, and I'm excited, too, for him to share his experience with everyone listening, whether you're a law student, young attorney, just hung your own shingle, or a seasoned managing partner. Tom has plenty to share for everyone here. So, Tom, it's excited to have you on the show. First question, tell us your story, and this is more personal than it is business at this point. What got you started? Why did you become an attorney? Feel free to take us back as far as you need to, but let's hear more about Tom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My favorite subject. I ended up going to law school. We don't have any lawyers in the family. It's always something, when I was in high school and even in college, and people like, oh, you should be a lawyer. And I sort of resisted it. This was, I was in college in the late 80s, early 90s, and like going to law school or med school is sort of thing to do. And I'm like, you know what? I'm blazing my own trail. I'm not doing that. So after college, as you and I were talking about, before we started here, very impressive career in food service delivery, pizza delivery. I was probably the worst waiter in the world, which is one of the reasons I knew I had to figure out a different career. But I ended up, and it was at Chapel Hill, North Carolina. That's where I went, and so sleeping on a couch in a friend's apartment, and he was getting his master's in communication studies. So I'm like, hey, that sounds good. Got my master's in communication studies, and at the end of that, I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm sort of interested in getting into politics, and so I just moved to DC. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything lined up, and again, was sleeping on friends' couches, and just by a lot of networking and this was back in the day when to apply to work on Capitol Hill, which is what I wanted to do. There was literally like a cardboard box, and you would go and take your resume and you would drop it into the cardboard box. None of this like email and resumes. That just wasn't the thing. So I ended up getting a job in a congressional office, Lynn Woolsey, who's now retired in Northern California. And I just loved it. I really had a great time. But I knew I didn't want to have that be my career. I didn't want to be a professional staffer, although that's a great career to have. But I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to dust off this idea of going to law school. And so that's what I did.
Now, 1 second, did the pizza experience help you get that job just on the resume?
Oh, of course. Once they saw that I worked for Domino's, there's so many doors open, so many.
All right. I thought so. That's hilarious. So you're going to law school now, and give us the background on that.
So I went to law school, and I like I said, I didn't have any lawyers in the family. I didn't have anybody I was really modeling after. But I really enjoyed it. But I didn't have any. Actually, when I first went, I thought, I want to get into politics. I want to run for office, and that's actually the essay that I wrote. The application essay and all that. But as I went to law school, I got more interested in litigation and kind of the on your feet kind of work. I really loved constitutional law, and this really was what planted the seed of not only doing trial work, but also later opening my own firm. Fascinating guy I had as a common law professor. He looked like Karl Marx. He had this big white beard, and he'd circle like this. But he had a fascinating background in that, he had all the credentials. He went to, Columbia, he clerked for Supreme Court Justice. But then after that, he went and was a public defender. And this was like in the 60s, early 70s, where, that's where all the good communists and socialists were to be public defenders. I'm only half kidding. Of course he wasn't, but nevertheless, he was a, sort of a bomb thrower. And he did that for a number of years. And then just on a whim, just as he and a buddy decided they wanted to open open their own firm, and he told just amazing stories about what that was like, and it was just. And then the last day of class, like he gave this rousing closing argument slash speech about how hey, once you get your JD and once you're barred, you're good to go. Like you don't, yes, you need to get training, but he's like, he basically, and I'm sort of making light of this, but it was almost like you can go sue whoever you want. You're good. You're good to do that then. And so I spent a lot of time in office hours with him, just talking to him and hearing his stories. And so that's what really got me interested in the litigation side. And so that's what set me on that path. So
excellent. Well, it also sounds like you may have planted the seed to,
yes,
be an entrepreneur and have your own firm as well.
Yeah, he did. I mean, just the way that he talked about, like, he talked about like he and his buddy that he started the firm with, like he was the litigator and his buddy was doing the transactional stuff. And the office was so small that they shared that if they both leaned back in their chairs at the same time, they'd smack heads. But he said, like, his partner was, like I said, doing transactional, and he was one of the first apparently in the country to kind of cobble together trust and estates law and to provide rights to same-sex marriage couples. I mean, this was back in the day when they didn't have any rights. And my professor was doing civil rights litigation. And he's like, I just loved our waiting room. Like we had all kinds of, same-sex couples coming in there to get the help. And then we have people there for doing civil rights. And I also remember what stuck out to me was the first time he sold a legal product. He's like, I wrote this letter for a client and they handed me $50. And he's like, it's like a light bulb went over his head. He's like, well, I wish I had a stack of letters to write. This is awesome. But he went on to have a very, very prominent career as a civil rights litigator. And I just loved what he did. And, awesome. And so that really kind of stuck in my head.
Yeah, I just love hearing everyone's stories and their different paths. And I had a gentleman on here recently that went to law school, kind of like what you were saying. He went to law school for a different purpose to get like a stepping stone to some other career. And I'm not sure if it was politics or something else, and then fell in love with it and was like, wait a minute, this is actually what I want to do.
Yeah.
And which was interesting that they were using law school as like a stepping stone to something else, but I ended up loving it. And so a professor or teacher, someone like that can do that to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the opposite, I guess.
Yeah, too. Right. I don't want to do this. Yeah, I don't want to end up like you. Sure.
Yeah. So that's good that you had a good experience there. Everyone tuning in, please, you can take a look at Tom's website while we're talking to Tom. If you're watching this later on or now or in the near future here, because this will be up on our website and it'll exist for forever in the interweb. So his website address is just below on the screen. Check him out. Look at his firm. His website is really well put together. So kudos on that, Tom. And I'm a judgy guy because I own a company.
That's what you do, yeah.
That does a lot of that. And, I'm honest as well. But go check out his website. It's, SpiggleLaw.com. That's PIGGLELAW.com if you're listening on the podcast. But learn more about him while we're talking to him. So with that being said, Tom, what do you focus on? What do you specialize in? If I was going to call your firm and you're like, we're the best fit for that, what is your focus? What's your ideal customer?
So we help people who've been fired or afraid that they might be. So basically plaintiff side employment. We only represent employees. Okay. Our clients, while they run the gamut, they tend to be professionals or higher level managers that have a lot of skin in the game with their career. We also have a niche within that doing pregnancy and caregiver discrimination. Okay. I wrote a book called You're Pregnant, You're Fired. So we do a fair amount of that, women with that issue, and also men who face discrimination because they're trying to take leave to be with their kids. So we do quite a bit of that as well.
Okay, excellent. And so you're in the Northern Virginia area. For other people that maybe not familiar, they're in other states. What are some of the areas that you actually focus on geographically? I know you are multi-state as well, but
yeah. So we are in the DMV. So we do Virginia, District of Columbia, Maryland. We also take cases in New York and North Carolina.
Okay, excellent. So What is really, so give us a little bit more background on the firm makeup, how many attorneys you have, and kind of what that mix looks like.
Yeah, so we have 30 some employees now. We have 7 attorneys. I'm the sole owner. And we also have a fully built out C-suite. I have a managing attorney. I have a COO, director of sales, director of marketing. And then, the 7 attorneys and paralegals and legal assistants and other staff to assist.
Good on you, sir. With that's those things getting in place, especially with the structure there, is I think really important. I have a lot of attorneys on that are not quite there. Some will never be there.
Yeah.
But running a law firm is being a lawyer and then running a business are separate things, and I think it takes some people quite a long time to get that figured out, or they just never get there.
That's a great point.
I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm a marketing company, totally separate from a law firm. But on this show, I gravitate towards the business side of things. How do you structure it? How do you run things? What's your systems and processes? Sales, marketing. So I feel like that's where I see the most help needed, especially when I'm talking to younger or actually, I had an attorney on as a friend of mine, someone I've known, and he was on as a guest of mine not too long ago, but he worked for firms for 30 years almost, and now he has his own firm, and he's out on his own. So, but just like a brand new attorney out of school, he's never run a company before. But,
it's very different.
But he's doing the right things. He's picked up a lot of the right tips. He's read the right books. He's got the right mentors, and he's got the experience at least to see what doesn't work, what does work. So he's a little more prepared than most. But so if you want, how long have you had the firm itself?
So I started the firm in 2009,
Okay.
and as you mentioned, like I shudder to think what I did not know back then when I started. I had a lot of confidence and maybe overconfident, but I mean, it was just I had a laptop, and I was coming out of the government. I was a federal prosecutor, so I didn't have any clients, to speak of when I started. And I had a laptop with a cracked screen that I had to use an external monitor to be able to see, and it was just me in an office for a while until I backed into. I mean, this was 2009, and in 2010, I had a big case in the Eastern District of Virginia, and it was just me and another attorney. And I'm like, I need a law clerk to help me out. Like, I just can't keep these plates spinning on my own. And given that, I mean, it was a bloodbath in the legal market at the time. So I put put an ad up. I'm just looking for a law clerk, and I got so many barred attorneys who were desperate. Any port in a storm, they needed the job, and so I ended up hiring some barred attorneys, and then kind of figuring out, what every successful law firm in the past 1,000 years has understood. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, if I can bill you out at this rate and pay you this, all that extra is mine. This is good stuff. And so that's how I ended up hiring people. And I frankly, I had some great people, but again, the things I didn't know were legion, and I did it badly in many respects. And it was a number of years before I had the other light bulb go on, that like, oh, you can run an office like a law office, like another business, and I don't have to do everything, and all the legal work doesn't have to come through me. And I really have to credit, I don't know if you're familiar with Lee Rosen, who does the Rosen Institute. He's a family lawyer from North Carolina, who has since sold his law firm. But at the time before he sold his law firm, he was also doing consulting. And I remember talking to him, and he's like, I'm like, all this stuff I want to do, and all these marketing ideas. And he's like, why aren't you doing them? And I'm like, well, I got these kids, I got these clients. And he's like, well, you've got associates, right? And I said, yeah, I got 1 or 2. And he's like, have them do the legal work. And I was like, oh, you could do that?
Delegate.
Yeah.
Time to delegate.
Yeah. Right. That's exactly what you do. So anyway, another light bulb moment. It took me a number of years to get there, and then a number of years after that, because I turned around and immediately started delegating and did it badly, and there were all kinds of mistakes. But I did learn through kind of trial and error how to do it. But you're right, law school does not prepare you for it, and even working at a law firm, unless it's a unique one, it doesn't prepare you for it.
Yeah, no, and I had the same experience. I started my company around the same time as you originally. It's like, oh, it's an economic collapse. Let's start a company.
Right. This is a great time to do it. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I think it was a good time because
It did. Right.
the people that did that then, they're like, well, if they could have scraped together some change in their pocket and keep in business along, during that time, then you're kind of more prepared for anything else that might happen. But
Well, and also I think the opportunity costs are a little lower, because no matter how good or how smart you are, there's gonna be a learning curve. And like,
yeah,
if the economy's in the tank anyway, like you're learning at a time when nobody's making any money. There's not a lot of opportunity that you're wasting because there's just not as much. And so, as
yeah.
probably with you, as for me, it worked out well because by the time I started figuring out a few things, then things started kind of pick back up. So I absolutely agree.
And yeah, and for what I did, I was more affordable because I was new, and people were tight on their money. So actually, I got a lot of work because they're like, "Well, I'm going to fire my big, huge agency that I have, and I can go with someone like Kevin, who's a freelancer. He's got one contractor or two. I was just kind of starting out, so I was an affordable option to go to, I guess, if you will."
Yeah.
Now I've grown into a much, more of a agency, but yeah, so that was my experience too. And lots of trial and error, lots of time.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do here is how do we help people maybe skip those, some of those mistakes, but a good book is E-Myth.
Oh, yes.
Which is awesome. And I'm actually listening to it again as we speak. And there's a group too called How to Manage a Small Law Firm.
Yeah, I
which is a great group to be a part of. But I think they recommend that book, or it's worked into some of their system. But there's a lot of good resources out there. So, I think everyone, if you're starting a firm, look out there, talk to people like Tom, read these books.
Built to Sell is another great book. I love E-Myth, and Built to Sell is another in that sort of that same vein.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that's good. So from a marketing perspective, I know you have a marketing director there. I saw on your team. Again, kudos to the website. I think it looks great, and how you guys have done some video content, big buttons, it is very easy, even like a calculator, and here's the steps to contact us. So all that stuff looks really great to me. What are some of the things that you've done to market your firm or advertise, whatever you do? Give us some tips on some things that have worked really well, and then maybe we'll get to some things that you feel fell flat.
Yeah. Having a niche helps, having something that you can say, this is the thing that I do, because people are more likely to remember that. And also not just from a marketing perspective, internally, it's easier to run your firm that way, because you can be like, okay, I know how to deliver this product. Whereas, if you're juggling 3 or 4 different areas, right? Like 3 or 4 different areas of law, you got to keep up on. Like it can be done. Well, obviously firms do it, but it really helped me to niche. Writing the book. Yeah. Writing the book was huge. It is the ultimate calling card. And I wish it was my brainchild, but it was Lee Rosen, who's like, hey, you got to write a book. He's like, I don't care what it's about. I just want a good cover and a good title. The stuff in the middle, it doesn't matter because nobody's going to read it, which is somewhat true. But that really worked. That niche down really worked. And I would say the second part to that is simultaneous to that, and writing the book, I hired a PR agency, which was huge, because there's there are all kinds of products now, where you could there's like a book, and then there's a book, right? And when I say book in air quotes, which I think are not bad things, but there are all these companies that you can do kind of a short book. You can do the
book in a box or something like that. There's
exactly, which is fine. I think those are good products, but you're not going to get in the New York Times for those, right? I mean, those are going to be good lead magnets and all those sorts of things. And so I wrote that book. I mean, it's frankly too long. It's 200 some pages. But anyway, I hired the PR agency. They helped me get the blurbs on the back. They helped me get some press with it. And it wasn't immediate. I think I was a little impatient at the time. I'm like, well, I wrote this book and I've been in like the paper a couple of times. Why isn't my phone ringing off the hook? But I would say within a year, that thing really started to gain traction. So I would say having the niche, writing the book, and just producing content generally, right? And it's a more of a longer term strategy. I think, it's like growing a garden. If you need to eat right now, like writing a blog post may not do it for you, but I'd recommend kind of face to face marketing with that. But it was something I enjoyed. And so I just kept plugging away, and I kept thinking, which I think is helpful when you're producing content, like what, for people who do not know your area of the law, like what is it they want to know? Like, how can I speak to them? Which is how I developed the calculator. Like people come to us all the time. They're like, what's my
Yep.
case worth? And I'm like, okay, let's see if we can develop
What do they
something.
want?
And yeah, I, hired somebody off of what was then Elance. Now it's Upwork. But I'm like, hey, can somebody help me develop this calculator? And some dude in India was like, sure, I can do that for you. And, so those sorts of things, like really answering your ideal customers' questions, I think is a big thing. And then just keeping at it. You just gotta, water can wear down that rock. You just, keep producing those blog posts, keep doing that videos, keep doing the podcast, whatever it is that you will, you want to do. And just keep showing up. And if at first you do it badly, who cares? Nobody's really looking at, right? They're really not. They're not looking, they're not looking that hard in the beginning anyway. So stumble around a little bit if you need to.
No, you're preaching to the choir over here. Niching, super huge. It makes everything so much easier. And we're a marketing agency. We used to work with everybody at a local scale. We're a local agency that worked with anybody, tire shop or a pizza place or a law firm or whatever.
Yeah.
And we were like, we got a niche, and we niched into law and a few years ago. And all my team knows how to work with law firms. They know how they operate, how they want to pay bills, how they expect things. And it's the same type of client, different client, but at least it's the same general direction. We know what they want.
Yeah.
So that makes everything easier. So that's a huge tip that you're giving there. And I think a lot of law firms they have like 1,000 practice areas on their website. And sometimes it's only an attorney or two, and they're just like trying to catch anything they can.
Yeah. That's why we don't do management side work. Love management side. Those guys are great, but like companies that are seeking employment law have a different emotional need than the person who just gotten fired. And so although the law is the same, and we could easily represent companies just like we represent individuals, I wanted our marketing and what we did to speak to individuals and where they're coming from, what their unique needs are. So I absolutely agree. It allows you to speak the same language to your ideal client. And that's what gets people to listen. That's what gets people to pick up the phone.
Well, imagine trying to convey both messages, and I'm an employee that is having these issues, and I'm like, you're trying to water it down and be like, well, we can help either person or company.
Right.
It's just not,
Yeah. So not the quite same ring to it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It could be working with my employer for all I know.
Right.
So it's, I totally agree with that. And then content, huge on content, SEO, blogging. And a lot of attorneys, they just write. We're more SEO, well, is it done right? Is it working for SEO? But if you don't know SEO and you can't afford SEO or whatever, still do what you're talking about, and there's a good book out there. It's They Ask, You Answer. It's by Marcus Sheridan. And this gentleman, he actually is from the Richmond area, I think, but he owned a pool company installing pools, like Rivers Pools and Spas. Yeah. He grew his company just by blogging every day. Hey, what do the customers ask? Everyone, if you get a question, tell me, and I'm going to write a blog about it. And they're the #1 pool site on Google for anything in the country. And they just grew to the biggest pool company in the country. Yeah. He now owns a marketing company and writes books and just consults. But it's simple. Hey, our customers always ask the same question. Well, let's answer it and put it out there. And you can make social media posts about it. You can make videos. You can make blog posts. Repurpose. So 100%. 100% agree. And the thing is, if you're an attorney starting out, you can spare a little bit of time to write an answer a question.
Right. Absolutely. Take that time to just, put that blog up and just, hey, even once a week, and I think, and to your point about recognizing your audience, I think what I see a lot of times attorneys when they're writing a blog post, particularly younger attorneys, like, of course, there is some value, like you were just saying, don't be too precious about it. But like, if you're writing about the latest Seventh Circuit opinion, like if you're retail, like if you're going after the car crashes, the DUIs, whatever, like, that employment law, like, right. I mean, like your clients are not typing in to Google, what is the latest Seventh Circuit, opinion on this. They're typing in, to your point, some kind of question like, what do I do if I have a meeting with HR tomorrow? What do I do if, I just got arrested? Those kinds of questions, answering those. So, don't treat it like a law review article, treat it like you're talking to somebody across your kitchen table, who's not a lawyer, like explaining it to them that way.
Yeah, and a lot of our clients, sometimes when they come on board with us for SEO, it's usually a conversation first. Hey, well, we've been writing all our stuff for years, but now, we know we need help, and, my attorneys don't want to write all the time or whatever. Or we just say, hey, you have no SEO value, so we need to work on that. I always have a conversation. Hey, listen, our goal is to get you more leads, more clients. So while we still be helpful and we answer questions, our goal is to drive traffic. And so we look at both sides. Say, what's your clients asking? What do they want? What do they need? And then let's look at what people are searching. What's the search volume? What's the competition? We pull that together with a strategy and say, all right, we're going to write this piece today. Mm-hmm. And this is the purpose of it. And yes, you can share it and whatever, but it's not really written to be featured in Forbes magazine.
Right. Right.
It's
right.
Easily communicating to the other person, this is what this is what you should do. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and by the way, we can help you with that if you need to. And that's what it should be for. Yeah. So, and a lot of lawyers are like, well, I got to write it perfectly in my voice, and it's, I can understand that, but as long as we're legally accurate, and that's how we treat it. There's a purpose behind it, and that should be tracked. That piece that we put together, track it. Is it performing? Yeah. Does it show up? Is it even worth keeping it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But hey, starting out, just start writing. Just put it out.
I think that's right. Even if you want to write about that Seventh Circuit opinion, that's still going to have value. It can still help build credibility. So, and you can always go back later and hire an agency like yours and be like, take that article and now repurpose it. Like do it in a way that has SEO value and just mine that all the stuff we've already produced.
Yeah, 100%. We do a lot of content pruning, if you will. Sometimes we bring a client on, they might have 1,000, 2,000 page website, and it sounds awesome that their SEO might be great, but sometimes some content might actually hurt their ranking. So it's content pruning. Hey, you got a lot of stuff on here that's old, not relevant, but hey, there's a lot of stuff that we can repurpose. We can just rework it and take that same piece with a little effort and now get you some action, and we'll redate it as a new piece. Yeah. So absolutely. Yeah. Repurpose what you can. And but yeah, 100%. So yeah, that's all good tips, Tom. 100% on the same page with you. So the book you have, so tell us more about that. Where can we find it? Is it listed on your website?
It's on the website. You can get it off of Amazon. You're
What's the title of the book? We'll pull that up.
You're pregnant, you're fired. It is on our website. You can get, a Kindle copy from Amazon, I think for like $1, so
excellent.
Yeah, that's where we got it.
I was gonna, if I can, so go on Amazon. So if you're pregnant, you're fired. I don't have a link available to me right this second, but here's the website again down here at the bottom of the screen. You can take a look at that and see what Tom's there. But again, I would just look at what Tom's done with the website and some of the things that they offer. And I think, really what works well is that think about their experience when they come there. They're not an attorney. They don't know what the heck's going on. They don't even know if they have a case, what questions to ask. Make it easy for them. Give them what they want, and got a good chance that they'll reach out, and maybe they're a case, maybe they're not. But
yeah, well, and I'll say, for our website, and this is certainly a plug for what you guys do. we've invested a lot of money. We've hired agents, and we did not build that on our own. That's for sure. And so I think, there are obviously good ways and bad ways to spend marketing dollars, but I do think if you can find a good digital agency like yours, somebody who can kind of help you out. I mean, just because like we were talking about before, like delegating, like unless like you just an attorney and you really enjoy building websites, and there are some out there, not many, but there are some, like don't spend all your time trying to knock out your own WordPress website. Like find somebody who can do that for you,
Yeah.
to help you keep those plates spinning. And they're, like SEO is a thing, like, right? I mean, like it's a specialty, it's a whole science. And while producing content is certainly great and is the first step and is the first part of like building your own kind of sandbox that's yours, you know, Google is a lot more complicated than it was when you and I started in 2009. Like those algorithms are a lot
I can rank you
different.
tomorrow in 2009. No problem.
Exactly. You can't just say employment law Arlington, employment law Arlington, employment law Arlington, and but now Google will punish you for doing that. So it does help to have a partner or somebody who can, help you decode that and how to, and as getting more into your field, but like, how much do you spend on PPC? Like how much do you spend on AdWords or Facebook? Like this,
targeting.
they're all different. Exactly. They're all different kinds of ways to do it. And yes, as an amateur, you can do a little bit of it, but that'll eat up all your time real quick.
Yeah. And I think even on our website, we have an article on our website that says pricing. And it's not necessarily, hey, here's our pricing, because we need to talk to you just like you would.
Yeah.
But it is an article that's like, well, here's some general ideas of pricing. And we even say, do it yourself, hire a freelancer, hire someone like us, and then here's your options. So we're not saying you have to use us. Maybe you're not ready for us. Maybe you need to hire on Fiverr to get a website. I'd suggest that over doing it yourself.
Oh, of course.
Because you're billing hours when you need to bill hours, not try to build a website. So,
right. Yeah.
But I think there's a solution for everyone out there. But it's you got to delegate, and you got to commit, and you got to be able to in some cases put some funds towards it and have some trust, and then from there hopefully you have a good experience and you make the right choice.
Yeah, right. So, absolutely.
Yeah
And be have some patience, right? I mean, like it's not like flipping a switch, like it's like growing a garden. You got to plant the seed, you got to water them, you got to tend to it, and if you do it right, you keep at it, it's going to produce food it'll just keep on going, but it does, it does take a little bit of time.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's what I try to do when I'm talking to anybody. I talked to a lady earlier. She's got a family pro law practice in Georgia, and she's got a Wix site, and she's doing some ads, and she's got she's not sure where to go next. And at this point, it's me just helping her try to even figure out where she should go. And I don't think we're probably a fit, but she's like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. So it's like, well, I guarantee you, I'll tell you what you should do, or what I would do. That might mean that we're not a fit for you, but so be it. So that's just how we operate. But here, the best advice I can give you, here's what you can do. If we happen to be a fit, that's great, but we can't sign a client that we can't help.
Oh, sure.
And I think that's another important tip for everyone listening is like, you can say no to a client or a case or whatever it may be that you feel is not a fit for you. It's not going to work out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Refer it to someone, some referral partners. It's worth I feel like the ones that can do that have not maybe made it yet, but they've kind of started to get it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sometimes the best client is the one you don't sign up, right? I mean, the best decision you can make is, I made a lot of those mistakes. So,
but yeah, when you're starting out, you're kind of like, I'll take it, anything I can get.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and you got to back out of it somehow. So
yeah.
Well, Tom, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Final question for you, and just so everyone can hear what your plans are. But what's some goals? I mean, I know this year's the last couple of years have been a little crazy, but as far as your firm's concerned, what are some of the goals you have? Maybe next year, up to next 5 years. Any big plans that you have going on?
Yeah, so we have expansion plans. We, are trying to, and a large part of the way already is like, okay, this is our system, this is our franchise. Essentially, this is how we kind of bake this cake. And now we're going to take this playbook and we can drop it anywhere within reason and do the same thing. So we want to expand to some other geographical areas, and then also, we want to partner with people who solve other problems that our clients have. So life coaches, resume writers, career coaches, those folks who, are dealing with the other piece and being a resource for them, because it really is, right? Your clients only bring you a piece of their problem. Their problem is much more global and you can't solve it
Yeah.
all because you're dealing with that narrow issue. But what else can you help them? What else can you help them solve? And so we're looking to expand that. And so we can really be part of the career service market, not solely, we've got this near legal problem that will help you solve.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, with financial services, I'm sure there's a lot of other things that could be applicable there. Now I love it. And that you said franchise model, I love it even more. And that's, eMyth is basically
that. Exactly right.
So I'm actually listening to it again right now in the ebook version. My partner is too, but that is exactly our goal. And even though we probably won't be like a franchise, actually, but you got to think of your business that way,
Yeah, right.
If I said, hey, Tom, run this other version of my business in Northern Virginia for me. Here's everything you need. And it should be the exact same experience the clients that you bring on as the ones we have here.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I love it. Great goals. I'm excited to see where you take it. Well, Tom, anything else you want to share? Any other ways that someone can reach out and connect with you? If they
certainly
wanted
the website. Yeah. Go to the website. They're welcome to email me directly at T as in Tom and last name Spiggle, Spiggle at SpiggleLaw.com. Always happy to talk shop.
Excellent. Well, appreciate that, everyone. Take Tom up on that. Reach out to him. Send me an email. Go to his website. I'm sure he's on LinkedIn too and places like that. Yeah. Ask him a question. Connect with him. Tell him you heard him on the Managing Partners podcast. So we'll see if he gets
Kevin. It's been great.
Thank you so much, Tom. No, it's been actually really awesome. Everything you're doing is spot on. I love it. This episode, guys, will be available up on our website. It'll live up there, arraylaw.com/podcast. You can filter by practice area, or you can filter by location. So you can find Tom either way on there, or look for other attorneys in different practice areas if you're looking to hear more family law or divorce law or PI. We got it all. 170, I believe, just last year. So tons of good content. And if you need help getting anywhere close to where Tom is at with his marketing, reach out to us. Check us out. Reach out to me. Any questions, I'm happy to answer at arraylaw.com. Tom, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Else, yeah, we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining and listening in. And we'll talk to you soon. Tom, staying with me. We'll chat briefly behind stage.
Okay.
All right, everybody. See you. Oh, it's not stopping for some reason.
The camera loves me too much.
It just does. Well, we're going to stay on, everyone.